morning, good afternoon, good evening. We have gathered here from all parts of the world for the final day and the closing plenary of the RISE World Summit 2023. Once again, as we started on day one, we are at the Alberione Hall of St. Paul's in Bandra in suburban Mumbai as we bring this wonderful RISE Summit to a close. What did we do in these 4 days? 6,500 attendees, 150 experts, 100 sessions online and offline, 20 pre-event engagements in Ghana, India, multiple cities in India, UK, Nepal, and others, 118 partners, 95 virtual booths for entrepreneurs, media, PSA, innovation clusters, partners, and resources. 4 days of events and 12 days of networking. Why do I say 12 days? Because the networking will continue till the 6th of February. This is what we've accomplished all across these 4 days. And what have we actually done? 4 days of breakthrough conversations, breakthrough interactions, and breakthrough collaborations. That's what RISE is all about. To reiterate, to remind you all, what does RISE stand for? Responsible, inclusive, sustainable, ecosystem friendly. The 4 values on which this summit has been going from strength to strength over the last 10 years. Yes, it was our 10th anniversary. And while there was a fond hope, or rather we challenged Caron saying, we're going to be in 100 countries and have 10,000 people, I think nearly 7,000 people in 71 countries are not too bad, right? So this is what we did. So I think we have all of us to thank for that. And yes, congratulations to everybody for making RISE World Summit a success. Now, what else did we do? As part of RISE and the run-up to RISE, there was a case study that was conducted at IIM, Indian Institute of Management, Udaipur. It was a pre-event activity to encourage students to think towards SDG, Sustainable Development Goals interlinkages, and their impact on the CSR, ESG, and policy level decisions. So IDOBRO partnered with IIM Udaipur for the annual Management Fest Solaris 2022, along with Consult U, the consulting club of IIM Udaipur that organized Mantravat 2022. We floated a case study based on the RISE Balanced Innovation Framework. The competition received over 1,100 plus registrations from 20 plus business schools, as well as undergraduate colleges in the country for the competition. The judges for this competition were, of course, convener of the RISE World Summit and Chief Impact Officer of IDOBRO, Caron Shaiva, Deepak Nanda, Aparna Arvind, and Deepali Bhagwate. And just to put up who finally won it, there were amazing teams and really competing well in that. Do we have a slide on that? Well, anyways, let me just call out the names. The second runner-up for this competition was Team Rabbit. The first runner-up was Team Quinine. And the winner of this competition was Team EVA. Very unusual names, I must say, but I must assure you, absolutely. So please, in the case study. Well, I'm very honored and privileged to announce that we have a very exciting keynote speaker who's going to address us today for the opening keynote. Our keynote speaker is none other than Ms. Rosa Whittaker Duncan Williams, President and CEO of the Whittaker Group, and also, it's my pleasure to actually tell you a little bit more about Rosa. And I must say, and it's a pretty long bio because this lady is absolutely accomplished, and it's absolutely an honor to have her with us today. So without further ado, let me just tell you a little bit more about Rosa Whittaker. A business strategist and market leader in the Africa trade and investment landscape, Rosa brings a unique blend of knowledge, experience, reputation, and accomplishment accrued over the course of a multifaceted career. She served as a US career diplomat, trade negotiator, entrepreneur, troubleshooter, and thought leader. Her name will always be associated with the historic conceptualization of US economic relations with Africa that resulted in the African Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA, of 2000. She's known as one of the hands-on architects of AGOA, America's first comprehensive trade policy towards Africa, a bipartisan policy which remains the cornerstone of US economic engagement with the region. After serving as senior trade policy advisor in the US Congress, she was the first ever assistant US trade representative for Africa in the administrations of both Presidents William J. Clinton and George W. Bush as a point person on African trade issues. She played a central role in building the boundary-transcending bipartisan coalition that was key to AGOA's adoption and implementation. In 2003, Rosa founded the Whitaker Group, TWG. TWG has been the partner of choice for multinational corporations and other stakeholders seeking to expand business engagement and investments in Africa in ways that deliver both commercial and human development dividends, as well as environmental stewardship. TWG, today a globally recognized transaction, investment, and project development firm, is credited with helping to secure billions of dollars in investment and other capital flows into Africa's frontier economies. For more than a decade, she served on the International Executive Board of Mercy Ships, and ultimately as president of this global charity operating the world's largest private hospital ships. Rosa's insights and influence are widely documented in media editorials, articles and appearances, Financial Times, Newsweek, The Hill, and on BBC, CNN, and MSNBC. She's a recipient of many honors and awards, including inclusion in Foreign Policy's 2010 list of 100 top global thinkers. She serves on the boards of the US Chamber of Commerce, the world's largest business association, and Afreximbank's Fund for Export Development in Africa, respectively. Previously, Rosa was a member of the Bloomberg CEO Breakaway Network and the US Global Leadership Council. She also served as vice chair of Invest Africa US and the US South Africa Business Council, respectively. She has a master's degree in public administration and a BA in political science from the American University in Washington, D.C. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for our opening keynote speaker, Rosa Whitaker Duncan Williams.
Ms. Karan Shiva, representatives of the United Nations, board members of Ndobro, steering council members of the Rise World Summit, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, greetings from Accra, Ghana. And I really do very much appreciate and am very honored to join you. And I am most moved by that kind introduction. I first congratulate Rise Summit on its 10th anniversary. Over the years, you've brought together nearly 5,000 participants in 60 countries, more than 60 countries across the world. But more importantly, you have created a unique crucible of knowledge, inspiration, and inclusive partnerships needed to turn insight and intention into action. Now, the theme of your summit this year, purpose, profit, peace. It's a challenging one, but an important one. Now, peace, I would define as the sine qua non for human flourishing. I would define our purpose as the fostering of the conditions that maximize human flourishing. But how do we define profit? So I would define purpose as the fostering of the conditions that maximize human flourishing. And I ask again, how do we define profit? Now, the desire for profit is what creates wealth, according to Adam Smith. And Adam Smith taught us that without wealth, there is no human flourishing. But we find that this pursuit of wealth is routinely at odds with human flourishing. Is it a zero-sum game? Now, following the dictates of Milton Friedman, publicly traded corporations often seek to enrich their shareholders to the maximum extent possible, while also at the same time influencing the rules and regulations that's supposed to tame their kind of influence and governance. But despite its shortcomings, I still believe in capitalism. I have yet to see an economic model that works better. But at the same time, We must reform, redefine, and repurpose capitalism so that it can serve the greater good in better ways. In short, what has unlocked so much opportunity around the world also has some rot in it that must be rooted out. We must root out the rot. We must reform it. We don't have to throw it away because we have yet to really see a better economic model. That has been proven, I believe. But this kind of Darwinian capitalism, predatory and focused on the short term, is truly at odds with human flourishing. We need an inclusive capitalism that defines profits and purposes in ways that promote human flourishing, or else there will be no peace. This is an inflection point in history. And let's take this inflection point to redefine and repurpose profit and capitalism. I applaud the summit's organizers on the focus on youth and Africa, because they are very connected to the world we're trying to see and the many opportunities to learn from other regions of the world and to create new paradigms. Africa's rise on the global stage as the world's youngest continent really does provide us with the unique opportunity to reset and establish a better model of capitalism with human flourishing at its core. And unless we have a greater focus on Africa, that's why I'm so pleased that RISE is intentional about incorporating and including Africa in its model. Unless we have a better focus on Africa, unless we incorporate African ideas, leadership, and innovation, it will be impossible to confront the transnational threats that continue to endanger our world. It will be impossible for us to, as a global community, to seize the many opportunities ahead of us and before us right now to achieve a more compassionate form of capitalism. It must be appreciated that human flourishing today, tomorrow, and the decades to come will to a greater extent be determined by what happens in Africa. It will be determined by the choices and decisions you make. Many of you already know this, but let me briefly outline the compelling why. Why is Africa so important to our future direction? Why is Africa consequential to the world that we are working to see? First of all, is size. The African landmass encompasses more than 30 million square kilometers, enough to accommodate the US, China, India, most of Europe, and Japan. And I've been surprised at how many young people in particular do not appreciate this geography, that all the countries that I've named can be fit into the land mass of Africa. Secondly, we have to look at the numbers. By the end of the century, Africans will number 4 billion and comprise 40% of humanity. In the 2040s alone, 566 million children will be born in Africa. And the third, we can't ignore age, the youth bulge. Today, the median age, for example, of Japan's population is 48. China's is 38, India's 28, Nigeria 19. By the mid-century, African births will outnumber Asian births, and Africa will be home to the largest prime working age population. Now, this youth quake Why African demography should matter to the world is the apt title of a new book by Edward Pace, from which these figures are also repeated and drawn. You know, as an experiment the other day, one of my team members asked ChatGPT, you know, the artificial intelligence app that's taking the world by storm, with a bias towards conventional wisdom, I might add. So my team member asked ChatGPT, what are the implications of Africa's demographic trends? There is no denial that these trends actually exist. The numbers aren't lying. There's been a lot of consensus around the data. But what are the implications? So he put it before this AI app. The answers that came back were not encouraging at all. The youth bulge, according to AI, ChatGPT, portend unemployment and social instability, heightened migration pressures, rapid urbanization, according to ChatGPT, meant the spread of slums and informal settlements across Africa, exacerbating poverty and inequality. Health systems would be stressed to the breaking point. The environmental impacts would be severe, including deforestation, land degradation, and increased greenhouse gas emissions. Now, while I recognize the risks are substantial, I do not share this mechanical AI-produced pessimism. And here's why. The world is on a threshold of a new industrial revolution, driven by the existential need to phase out energy based on combustion. If we are steadfast in purpose and non-predatory in our definition of profit, this revolution gives Africa the opportunity to finally liberate itself from historical legacies that have held it back while shackling its vast creative energies. As the development economist, my dear friend Sir Paul Collier, has shown, the secret sauce of the North's prosperity was the quantum leap in productivity that occurred when English innovators harnessed looms and forges to carbon-spewing steam engines. Most of Africa did not get to make this productivity leap. The colonial powers used this continent as a source of unprocessed inputs for their mills. What they left was mostly a collection of resource-dependent rentier economies isolated from each other behind arbitrary and artificially drawn borders. Africa by design was kept at the bottom of global value chains and by global protective trade regimes. That is now changing. We are at a reset moment, but it's not changing fast enough. In 2013, the Africa Union's membership agreed on a 50-year roadmap, Agenda 2063, the Africa we want. And I would surmise that there's a connection between the Africa that Africans want and the world that we all hope to see. So what did the Africans say was the world, the Africa they want? They said it will be economically integrated through the African Continental Free Trade Agreement and area, now in its earliest stages of implementation, but is the world's largest free trade area. It will be industrialized with diversified African industries and an energetic young population in vibrant cities, turning Africa's rich endowments, minerals, agricultural, and intellectual assets into value-added products for Africa and the world. Okay, we know we have approximately 2 billion more people that we will have to feed in the world. Arable land, 60% of it is in Africa. But no less important, Africa's voice will be fully heard in global decision-making, including the UN system that represents the world as it is. That's the UN system that we want. A UN system that's reformed to represent the world as it is, not as it was in 1945. It will be the voice of an Africa that is helping to solve the world's many pressing problems, from climate change and food security to conflict and mass migrations, not creating these problems, but solving these problems. Africa has no lack of non-carbon emitting energy power for the fueling of a 21st century industrial revolution. Nor does Africa want for the minerals, cobalt, nickel, lithium, manganese, copper, graphite, upon which batteries and other green technologies rely. I will give an example. The Democratic Republic of Congo and Zambia account for more than 70% of the world's cobalt and 15% of its copper. Gabon and South Africa for 60% of manganese. Guinea for 25% of bauxite in the world. Mozambique, Madagascar, and Guinea have the major reserves of graphite also. None of these subsoil assets, and I've seen the range of the value of Africa's subsoil assets. I've seen it range from $28 trillion to $700 trillion. But what we know for sure, it is a lot, and it can transform the world if harnessed in a sustainable way, with environmental stewardship, with people and human flourishing at the core. And none of these assets, none of these advantages will help Africa defy the pessimist of ChatGPT, the pessimist of historians, the pessimist of politicians, the pessimist of donors, if the continent remains at the bottom of global value chains. Today, we have to address this. I hope that it will be part of your action agenda, that agenda to turn intention into action. Today, a negligible share of Africa's minerals are processed in Africa. And this is the problem. China refines 73% of the world's cobalt, mostly sourced from the Democratic Republic of Congo. China is processing 67% of nickel, 59% of lithium, 40% of copper, and it controls an increasingly large share of the African mines that extract these minerals. This is not China bashing. China is looking out for its interests, but these are the facts. China's domination of the renewables value chain extends all the way from solar panels and lithium-ion batteries and vehicles, in whose production Africa has little or no share. Now, unless the owners of global capital today, wherever we may find these owners of global capital, are willing to invest directly and purposefully, inclusively, and patiently in Africa's green industrialization, they will simply be marrying the colonial powers of the 19th century. As long as this paradigm persists, Africa will continue to operate on margins rather than the mainstream of the global economy, and will continue to be stuck at the bottom of supply chains. Donors will continue to pour aid money to try to fix a problem that they helped to create instead of getting to the source. They will continue to opine about donor fatigue, and then greed at home and abroad across Africa will continue to fuel corruption and the governance challenges that we see today. And what I fear is that we will continue to realize, if we do not make the right choices, that prediction by Yuval Hariri, where he predicts a useless generation that will be made redundant and useless largely by algorithms and artificial intelligence. A world in which Africans across the board, and I think we can agree on this, we don't have to agree on everything, but I think we can agree that a world in which Africans across the board are flourishing will be a far more peaceful and prosperous one than a world in which African people remain trapped in poverty without the infrastructure and skills to even compete with artificial intelligence. I will close by saying there will be neither profit or peace without purpose, and more precisely, shared purpose. Our planet's future depends to a large extent, as I've said before, on the choices we make today. Now, history has taught us that there are two outcomes of massive economic inequalities, this kind of exclusivity around capital, this gross asymmetrical kind of system of wealth distribution. History has taught us that there are two outcomes of massive inequalities. There's revolution or massive repression to stave off revolution. We need a revolution, but we need a revolution of different sorts. We need a revolution that redefines these values and these systems that have worked for us and against us. We need to redefine it. We need to reform it. We need a revolution that will unleash the human potential and change the incentivize to unleash the power of people-centered enterprise that will produce partnerships, the peace, and kind of shared profits that we all like to see. Thank you so much.
So thank you once again. Let's have a huge round of applause for Ms. Rosa Whittaker Duncan Williams. I'm sure her voice for Africa will go far and wide, especially to all the people who have tuned into the Rise World Summit this time. Now, what goes behind putting together something like a Rise World Summit? Of course, it had the vision of the founder of IDOBRO and the chief impact officer, but there's also a foundation which kind of puts it together, and that's none other than the Rise Infinity Foundation. And there's one tradition that we have maintained, I think, right from the first year onwards, is that at the closing ceremony, the closing plenary, we give out the Rise Citizen Awards, where we recognize individuals and organizations who have done yeoman service, who has actually done something very, very different in their areas of work to make this world a better place. To tell us a little bit more about the Rise Summit and the Rise Citizen Awards, I would like to introduce and I'd like to invite on stage none other than Mr. Walter Vieira, board member of the Rise Infinity Foundation. Please put your hands together for Mr. Walter Vieira.
Just a few words to say that we put a lot of effort into organizing and identifying prospective awardees every year. And this is very carefully done. There's a lot of inspection and introspection both in this whole exercise. And it will show you that last year, the two awardees, one was Professor Philip Kotler of Kellogg Business School, and who is known as the father of modern marketing. He was an awardee. And the second was Mr. Yosef Abramovich, the Nobel laureate, the Nobel laureate awardee, a nominee, who again was selected after careful consideration. We will now wait a little while for the announcement of this year's awardees. And I think they will follow in the footsteps of their predecessors. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vera. That was truly, you built up the suspense pretty well. Now, we are really fortunate to have Mr. Vera with us on the board for the last several years. He's been a great champion of the RISE World Summit and, of course, the Citizen Awards. He's a management guru in his own right. I think there are plenty of people, plenty of students, and he's the Philip Kotler of Asia. Thanks, Karan, for actually reminding me. So thank you, Mr. Vera. It's his measure of, the measure of his commitment and your support to us that you make it every year without fail, and we can't do without you. Thank you so much. So that was, I was prolonging the announcement a little bit more, yeah? So yes, so ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, wherever you are, we are now ready to announce the first winner of the evening of the RISE Citizen Award. And can you have a huge round of applause? It gives me great pleasure to announce that the first awardee for the evening of the RISE Citizen Award is none other than Ms. Navya Naveli Nanda, UN Women Generation Equality Ally, businesswoman, and social entrepreneur. I would like to invite Ms. Rosa Whittaker Duncan Williams to present the RISE Citizen Award to Ms. Navya Naveli Nanda. She'll be joining us from the United States virtually, but yeah, but on the, Navya is with us, with Ms. Williams. And with us to hand over the award physically, may I invite Karen Shiver, Chief Impact Officer of IDOBRO, but also Dr. Walter Vieira and Carol Andrade, both board members of RISE Infinity Foundation. May I invite Ms. Rosa Whittaker to kindly say a few words and present the RISE Citizen Award to Ms. Navya Naveli Nanda.
Thank you. What a well-deserved award, Navya. Your accomplishments and impact are truly remarkable. I really think you're a wonder and an inspiration for your generation and beyond. Your advocate devotion to improving the lives and well-being of young women, resonating and providing an example for women and others globally. With your entrepreneurial spirit and your leadership, I even feel more reassured and confident about the future of our world and the future of the generations that you've touched. On behalf of the RISE Infinity Foundation, it is my pleasure, it is with great pleasure and honor to present the RISE Citizen Award to Navya Naveli Nanda. Congratulations, Navya. May your path always be forged with strength, tenacity, and passion. And may you also blaze new paths for others. You have truly lifted the limitations for so many. We pay tribute to you and thank you.
And now we'll have the physical handing over of the award right here in Mumbai. applause, ladies and gentlemen.
And one more. I'll take that for the yes, and now yes.
So before we invite Navya to give her acceptance speech, a little bit about Navya. Navya Naveli Nanda, like I said, is a UN Women Generation Equality Ally and a businesswoman and a social entrepreneur. She's the fourth generation of the Nanda family to be working in the family business Escorts Kubota, one of India's leading agricultural machinery companies. She's also the co-founder and CEO of Ara Health, India's first women's health and wellness platform. She's also founded Project Naveli, a non-project initiative providing women with resources and opportunities to allow for social and economic independence. And of course, like I said, she's the UN Women Generation Equality Ally. She recently started her own podcast called What the Hell, Navya? A feel-good show with 3 women from different generations and their thoughts. It brings together Navya Nanda, Shweta Nanda, her mother, and Jaya Bachchan, her grandmother, to discuss various important topics. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Navya Naveli Nanda.
Thank you so much. I think there's a long, long legacy to live up to, given the previous awardees of this Rise World Summit. So I think it's a great honor for me, to be recognized for the work that I have done. And I really do owe all of that, not to myself, but to the incredible people that I've had the opportunity to work with, whether that's been through my startup, whether that's been, through my nonprofit. One of my co-founders is actually sitting right here today. So I actually owe all of this impact to them. And I would want to kind of dedicate this to the entire team that I work with that has made this impact possible today. And thank you so much to the Rise World Summit for recognizing me. And I'd love to say that it's extremely encouraging when, you acknowledge and appreciate the youth for what we do. And we really are trying to build a better world, build a more sustainable world, a more equal world. And being a woman myself, I think something that I've always strived to do through my work is build a gender equal world. So it really gives us a lot of encouragement, when platforms like this recognize the work that we do and also support that. So it really means a lot. And thank you so much. It really is an honor for me to receive this today. Thank you.
Thank you, Navya. That was truly inspirational. You are an inspiration, not only to the youth, but to everybody around who is trying to make the world a better place. And I'm sure you're a deserving award winner. Like I said, it's often said, it doesn't matter how old you are to make a difference, right? It doesn't matter. A child can inspire us as much as a senior citizen. So thank you so much. But yes, we've got something amazing in store for you right now, right? So as we bring the curtains down on a super successful Rise World Summit 2023, it's time to say goodbye on a musical note. That doesn't mean that today's program ends here, okay? There's something to go even after that. But we said, let's have a musical break in between. And it's my pleasure to introduce to you a very young, talented musician, a music director and a producer, Shivansh Chaya Kapil. Shivansh Chaya Kapil, let's give him a big round of applause. So Shivansh Chaya Kapil hails from a deep grounding in Hindustani classical as well as Western classical background since childhood. He specializes in music production and Western orchestration, fusing Indian rags and folk music. His technical interest in sound led him to learn sound engineering from Kerala University and then eventually work in the Malayalam film industry under legendary music composers like late C. Rajamani, Osupachan, I hope I got that pronunciation right, and others. Later, his expertise led him to arrange and conduct the City Chamber Orchestra of Hong Kong live in 2017. Shivansh Chaya's recent work includes the production and arrangement for Gangubai Kathiawadi, Me Vasantrao, The Empire, and many more. All this from a 23-year-old guy, I think, right? Strap yourselves in as a young, talented music director, producer and arranger Shivan Chaya Kapil spins together a tapestry of sound and song that takes inspiration from the classical rags of India and blends them into inspirational popular tracks that evoke the rich diversity of the country in his own inimitable style. Ladies and gentlemen, Shivan Chaya Kapil bringing you Alvida, a musical goodbye from India. And accompanying him on the guitar will be Aditya Mehta. Please welcome Shivansh with a huge round of applause.
So, this particular piece, what I'm going to present here, is having two very important compositions which reflect the very essence of this Indian culture. And I, having a background from classical music, so I've tried to blend two ragas together. One is a rag Des, one is rag Bhairavi. So there are two very famous compositions on these two ragas, which today we are trying to do. I hope you all like it. So first is rag Des. बजे सरगम हर तरफ से गूंजे बनकर देसरा बजे सरगम हर तरफ से गूंजे बनकर देसरा 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 Now, Bhairavi. मिले सुर मेरा तुम्हारा तो सुर बने हमारा मिले सुर मेरा तुम्हारा तो सुर बने हमारा सुर की नदियाँ सुर की नदियाँ हर दिशा से बह के सागर में मिले बादलों का रूप लेके बरसे हल्के हल्के ओ मिले सुर मेरा तुम्हारा तो सुर बने हमारा मिले सुर मेरा तुम्हारा मिले सुर मेरा तुम्हारा तो सुर बने हमारा मिले सुर मेरा तुम्हारा तो सुर बने हमारा सुर की नदियाँ हर दिशा से बह के सागर में मिले बादलों का रूप ले बरसे हल्के हल्के मिले सुर मेरा तुम्हारा तो सुर बने हमारा, तो सुर बने हमारा, तो सुर बने हमारा, तो सुर बने हमारा। I will sing. Michael, level थोड़ा बढ़ा. वंदे मातरम, वंदे मातरम, वंदे मातरम, वंदे मातरम। यहाँ सारा जग देख लिया, कहीं तेरे जैसा कोई नहीं। हसीनत सौ दिन दुनिया में माँ, कहीं तेरे जैसा कोई नहीं। मैं बस तेरी याद थी, जो मेरे साथ मुझको तड़पाती थी। सबसे प्यारी तेरी सूरत, प्यार है बस प्यारी माँ वंदे मातरम, वंदे मातरम, वंदे मातरम, वंदे मातरम, वंदे मातरम। तेरे पास ही मैं आ रहा, अपनी बाहें खोल दे, जोर से मुझको गले लगा दे, मुझको फिर वो प्यार दे। तू ही जिंदगी है, तू ही मेरी मोहब्बत है, तेरे ही पैरों में जन्नत है, तू ही दिल, तू जान तो माँ तुझे सलाम, माँ तुझे सलाम, मम्मा तुझे सलाम, माँ तुझे सलाम। वंदे मातरम, 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 वंदे मातरम। Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram. Thank you.
For those of you who don't know it, Shivansh doesn't really perform live. His job is actually behind the studio, behind the scenes. He's an arranger. And if you've seen the music that was actually played today, has been arranged all by him in the last few days, and giving his own twist on. Yeah, these are iconic numbers, but he's given it his own style, his own stamp, and that is what makes him such a talented youngster. Yeah, that's exactly the point. He's working with the biggest filmmakers in India today across languages, and truly is an inspiration. I mean, I've learned so much about music arrangement from him just listening to him. I mean, I can't do a thing, of course. And if it's okay with him, I just wanted to share that Shivansh is also putting together a project to preserve the folk music of this country. And that's a massive project that he's working. And, I think he needs all the support that he can get, because truly that's our heritage, our archive, that we need to really preserve. And a young guy like that thinking about it and wanting to do that is something incredible. So thank you once again, Shivansh. We're also fortunate that we have with us Shivansh's mother, Ms. Chaya Kapil, who obviously is his inspiration. And she's here, and she herself is a classically trained singer. So it runs in the family. So it's so nice of you to come and support him today. Okay, so it's time now to announce the next Rise Citizen Award for the evening, or rather for the year, right? And for this, I would like to invite Ms. Dalia Newman, Deputy Consul General, Consulate General of Israel, Mumbai. And it's my privilege to announce that the Rise Citizen Award winner, number 2 for this evening and for this year, is none other than Padma Bhushan, Dr. Jagdish Sheth, Galsueta Business School at Emory University. May I invite Ms. Dalia Newman to kindly say a few words about Dr. Jagdish Sheth.
Thank you for having me. It really is a great honor. Before I will speak about Honorable Dr. Sheth, let me tell you just, a few greetings about this summit itself. What an impressive project. What an impressive way to connect people and ideas around the world. And I've been in India for 1.5 years, and being a diplomat, I know that sharing ideas, sharing thoughts, sharing projects is really the only way to do it right and to accomplish what you want. So well done for arranging this summit with all these beautiful, fascinating talks and roundtables that you had both physically and virtually. I am really honored to give this award, present virtually this award to Dr. Sheth. So I will say a few words. Dr. Sheth really, and ladies and gentlemen over there in Bandra, and people who are joining us from there virtually, it really is my great pleasure to present this award to Dr. Jagdish Sheth, a distinguished global thought leader, academician, and philanthropist. Doctor, your lifelong achievements and contributions to the field of business and education have left an incredible mark on our world. And your tireless efforts to bridge the gap between academia and industry have made a significant impact on the way we approach business and education. So it is with great honor that I acknowledge this contribution of your long year efforts and achievements, and present you with this award with words of thanks for dedicating yourself to excellence and for being an inspiration to us all.
I'm truly humbled to receive this award. The Rise Citizen Award of 2023 is quite meaningful to me for 2 reasons. First of all, The RISE World Summit is a collaborative effort between three institutions who can shape the human lives. That is the government, the industry, as well as, in fact, the civil societies. Getting together in a collaborative way is the only way to sustain United Nations sustainability goals. My second reason is that if you take a grain of wheat and make it into a loaf of bread, the value add is only 3 times agricultural commodity. If you take a rough diamond, polish it, the good diamond cutter will get the value out about 15 to 20 times. But if you take a human being, mentor, nurture, educate, invest, the value add is infinite. And that is the whole business we are in. Our business is to make ordinary people extraordinary. I'm very passionate about that mission, which is why I'm so grateful to receive this award. I do want to thank that no award can be achieved by any one person. My better half, my wife, Madhu Sheth, has been a great partner with me, and together we have achieved quite a lot in terms of contributing back to the society. Making money without meaning is meaningless. People feel empty inside. Giving back is the only way you get a meaning in life yourselves. Hence again, I'm very thankful for receiving this award. Thank you.
That's the prestigious award, which will be going to Dr. Jagdish Sheth. As we spoke earlier, many luminaries who have been awarded this over the last 10 years. And Dr. Jagdish Sheth, it is our honor and privilege to actually present to you this award this year as well. And now, yes, and now it's time for our closing keynote speaker. We already heard her speak, Ms. Dalia Newman, but it is my privilege to share a little bit about her. Like we said earlier, Dalia Newman is the Deputy Consul General of the Consulate General of Israel in Mumbai. She's an Israeli diplomat, obviously, but prior to being a diplomat, Dalia has been a media professional for many years and has posted some very high-profile positions in print newspapers as well as TV and radio daily news shows. Dalia is a curious, learning person, and she aspires to use a positive energy to bring India and Israel even closer together. We were fortunate to have Dalia actually do a session during the RISE World Summit on storytelling, where she also highlighted some very beautiful traditional stories from Israel. Ms. Newman, it is our privilege to have you with us as our keynote speaker. I would now like you to address the audience. Thank you.
I want to start with a little bit of, I wouldn't say an apology, but kind of explaining why I am sitting here in my living room, as you may be realized by now. As an Israeli diplomat and a Jewish person, Friday evening is quite special. Friday evening is a day that the family gets together, and we have some traditional prayers if we're religious, which I am not so much, but it's very special, and that is why I am joining you today from home and not from Bandra, where you all are. So that's just a little bit about Jewish tradition. So Friday night is different from other evenings of the week. I wanted to say something which I already mentioned before about sharing ideas. I've been here for 1.5 years, and this is actually my first posting because, as you mentioned, I had a long career before the diplomatic chapter of my life. So I've been here for 1.5 years with my family, and we are enjoying this country a lot. And one of the important lessons that I've learned is about really sharing and about talking about projects that you do, or even if they're not projects yet, they are just an idea, they are just a dream, they are just something that you would like to happen, that you would wish would happen. So a few months back, we met Karen, who is so important for making this summit happen. And we discussed some ideas. We just brainstormed some ideas, and then she could connect us, and other people who are present could connect us to either NGOs who were dealing with the same agenda that we were interested in, or maybe officials who could help from the government. So I really feel that if you want something to come true, you shouldn't keep it to yourself. I mean, there is the first stage in which, yes, you need to think about it, just you and yourself in the quiet room. But right after that, share, tell people, hear what they are doing. And even if you maybe don't have an idea yet, even just listening to inspiring stories, inspiring ideas, what people are thinking of, and what they're planning, can ignite wonderful things. So I really feel that Rise Summit does that. And Rise Summit allows for so many people, thousands of people around the world to connect. And I know that there are some follow-ups happening after the summit itself, and some projects are starting using this platform, which is truly amazing. And I want to wish you all a good, to be creative. We say, that Israel is an adaptive, creative energy. So I wish you all the Israeli energy, adaptive, creative, and I hope many good things will come out of this summit. The year 2023 has just begun. There is so much ahead of us, and I really hope that our calendar will be filled with good things and good ideas.
Thank you, Ms. Newman. That was very inspirational indeed. And as you said, yes, this isn't the end of the summit. It is actually the beginning between now and the next summit, because all the all the conversations and interactions that have happened over the last 4 days are now going to fructify into collaborations and work on the ground, because that is what we need and that's what we want at the end of it. It is now time for me to, and thank you again, Ms. Newman. I think let's give Ms. Newman a big round of applause. We didn't realize it, but truly it was a special effort for her to make it on a Friday evening. Thank you so much for that. It's time for me to invite the Chief Impact Officer of IDOBRO and convener of the Rise World Summit, Ms. Karen Shiva, to kindly come up and say a few words.
There is going to be a formal vote of thanks, but I think I would be failing in my duty if I did not thank Dalia for this absolutely special, acceptance to do this speech, in fact, at very short notice. So Dalia, my heartful thanks once again and gratitude for this. Of course, also congratulations to all the winners. I think that's not winners, I'm sorry, the awardees, because I think again they, kind of signify what we stand for and who we stand for. And so I think that's another thing I'd like to do. And with that, I'm going to start, Naresh, with what your instructions are about. So, and of course, Rosa Whittaker, who I think is not there now, but again, a very special thanks to her as well, from India. And I'm not sure how this will sound from a fashion point of view, but I'm wearing the very same outfit which I launched IDOBRO 13 years ago. Okay, I can see some stunned faces. And the reason I did this was for two of them. The first, because of a colleague who challenged me over a judgment I passed yesterday in our team review. We often make assumptions about capabilities based on how one looks, speaks, and dresses. And we need to break through those biases if we are to progress as a society, and even more critical, to gather diverse voices to save our planet. As I think back to the past 4 days, there are 3 words that stand out for me: ecosystem, systems thinking, and pathways. That was actually 4, wasn't that? But some of them will dismiss this as jargon, and yet it is the nuanced use of words that can shape our thoughts and action. We truly need to think of every stakeholder in our ecosystem and not just the most visible or the most powerful. We need solutions that are human-centric and people-powered rather than dependent on finance and technology. Last but not the least, pathways that examine every dimension across sectors and be it winding, intersectional, or iterative, covers every affected group to leave no one behind, a very fundamental principle of the Sustainable Development Goals. The second reason is because on this final day of the Rise World Summit, and after 10 years of organizing it, though Naresh is already thinking of the 11th, I feel it is time to turn the page to a new chapter in our journey. To do this, we are going back to our roots, not just symbolically as in this outfit, but in action to review and evaluate our efforts and the way forward. To make this even more publicly evident, we have adopted this year's summit theme, Purpose, Profit, and Peace, and integrated it into the iDobro logo. Yes, please do have a look at it, it's there. We want to focus on the agenda to think different and act together. We trust that you, as our co-travelers, will continue on our journey and together multiply our impact. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. I think you proved a point of some kind wearing the same outfit. I was sitting next to Rajesh, and I was afraid that somebody would construe it to mean that Rajesh does not buy you new clothes. But so you need to be. So point taken, very well. But yeah, truly amazing. It's a fact that I think we go beyond appearances, for sure. Like the Rise World Summit, I mean, it's been a heady 10 years, as we spoke about right at the opening. We started with 200 odd attendees in the Nehru Center. And as we pointed out at the opening as well, we've always had the opening and closing plenaries at institutions, educational institutions for the most part. And again, we are at St. Paul's, where we actually hosted the entire summit a few years ago. We had 2 years where we actually went online. I personally felt that would be going to be a hiatus in the whole journey of the Rise World Summit. But no, with someone like Karen Shaiva and the amazing board members that she has, that wasn't a possibility. And it suddenly opened up a new realm of possibility to us, because from the 300, 400 odd people used to attend the Rise Summit in the physical space, we actually had 1,500 in the first year from 50 countries, and then just literally a quantum jump to around 5,000 members, participants last year across, again, 61 countries. And this year we've gone beyond 6,071 countries. Now that just, I think, is testimony not only to the fact that the Rise World Summit is something the world needs and is looking for, but also that people across the world, across sectors, are ready to come forth, have those conversations, collaborate, and make the change on the ground. So it's no longer only in the hands of the government. It's when we get multi-sectoral participation and collaboration, that's when the SDGs truly will get a life of their own. And what Rosa spoke about in terms of leaving Africa behind, I think that won't be a reality from now on, especially if we can harbor that kind of cooperation. Now, there's something a little moving a departure from the agenda that we had today. We actually showed a video of the 10-year journey of the Rise World Summit. And I've asked Anthony whether he can pull that up, and he tells me that he has, right? So maybe let's have a quick look again. lots of memories, lots of fond thoughts. And that's exactly what we have created over the last 10 years with all your help and support. Youth are actually the dividend that any country in the world can possibly have. And the SDGs are not going to be achievable without the contribution of the youth. And the Rise World Summit has always recognized that. At the opening plenary, we actually had Anurag Malu, a young man who actually is a mountaineer and is using this whole concept of mountaineering to further the SDGs. We had an amazing video from him. And that was something that was our tribute to what the youth can do in this whole journey and the whole struggle and the kind of, the crusade that we have taken up for the SDGs. Today, we showcase Shivansh Chaya Kapil, again, a 23-year-old brilliant exponent of music and music arrangement, who's got a phenomenal future, for sure. But the point is, youth are not the future, they are the present. He's already making a name for himself. We had Navya Naveli Nanda, another young person who's showing the world how it should be done. And those are the inspirations that we take with us as we move ahead. And finally, to actually bring this evening to a close with a vote of thanks, we are going to ask one more young member, this time a member of the Rise Infinity Foundation herself, the young Lekha Chako. She's going to come up here and propose a vote of thanks. And with this, I would also like to say goodbye to you. After this, we bring Rise World Summit 2023 to a close. Lekha, you have the honor as being a young representative of Rise Infinity Foundation and the Rise World Summit to bring this entire 4-day event to a close with a formal vote of thanks. Lekha, all yours. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You were way too kind. 4 days. 4 days of the Rise World Summit, 60 plus sessions, both offline and online. I hope each and every one of you had an great experience, enriching experience. It is my pleasure to thank our co-host, Glenmark Foundation, Vibha, and Swedish Institute, our knowledge partners, MET Institute of Management, and Carol Cone, our venue partners, St. Paul's Institute of Communication Education, all our UN partners, and all the other program partners. I would also like to thank our plenary speakers, steering council members, committee members, experts, and global thought leaders. We also thank all our partners who did the pre-events as part of the Rise World Summit, and to those who supported the Rise campaigns. We thank all those who supported us to do the offline events in multiple locations across India and other parts of the world. We thank all the volunteers who supported us both offline and online to do outreach and logistics. Special thanks to Mr. Shivansh Chaya Kapil for his performance during the closing ceremony. So many events happened before the summit, during the summit, and will be also happening after the summit as well. I apologies if I have missed anyone right now. Thank you for all your support. I would also like to thank the IDOBRO and Rise Infinity Foundation team, especially Karen ma'am for taking the lead, and Deepak Nanda for leading the management of the platform, and the entire team for support. Have we forgotten somebody? How can we forget Naresh sir, our MC for 10 years for each and every summit. Thank you so much, sir. And thank you. Have a lovely time ahead.